Good morning. I am Jabalai Sabaluma and I will be reporting this chapter 7, Organizing the Physical Facilities. Goals and objectives. First, to differentiate and compare the five prime factors in determining the region. Second, to give the different factors to consider in the selection of the exact plant site in the community. And lastly, to explain the different advantages of the single story over the multi-story and advantages between the multi-story over single-story buildings. The physical facilities of an industrial enterprise consist of, first, the manufacturing plant, second, the building and premises, and third, the machine and equipment necessary to make a product or range of products in the quantities desired. In the organization of these facilities, the following main steps are the required. First, selection of the plant location. Second, selection and section of buildings. Third, selection of the equipment. Fourth, plant and machine layout. And lastly, installation of the equipment. Selection of the plant location. The decision as to the location of an industrial plant has a vital effect on the success or failure of the operation of such plant. The decision, therefore, should be based upon a careful consideration of all the factors pertinent of the particular enterprise. The nature of the factors involved in the plant location varies among industries and with changing technical and economical conditions. Some industries and the location of necessary plants are influenced by the markets. Others are located around the sources of power. Still others seek the source of raw materials. In the selection of plant location, the following considerations should be taken into account: determining the region, determining the community, and the choosing of the plant site. Determining the region. Determining the region in which the plant is to be located requires consideration of five prime factors, namely 1. Proximity to market. Second, proximity to necessary material. Third, transportation facilities. And fourth, adequate public and private services such as water, power, fuel, gas, and etc. First, proximity to market. There has been established a relationship between the centers of population and manufacturing, and relationship indicating that industry in general tends to seek its market. The tendency of a plant to locate near its market has been evident. First, where the product is perishable, as for example bakeries. Second, where professional skill is important, as photographers, tailors, and other whose style or craftsmanship the customers want to face first before buying. The third one is where processing adds weight, as for example, the preparation of bottled drinks, which involves perhaps 90% of water plus the weight of the bottle. In all these cases, the proximity to potential customers is of primary importance in choosing a location. A bakery would not be established in a sparsely populated barrio, but would be set up in Poblacion or town proper. The second one is the proximity to raw materials. The raw material, a factor in production, is very vital to consider when processing removes considerable weights. For example, it is much cheaper to manufacture cement at the place where raw materials are. Those are cement plants are in Cebu, La Union, Bulacan, and Rizal, very near to the limestone mines where the raw materials came from. Another good example that may be mentioned in the meat packing industry located at Chicago or Kansas City in the United States. On the other hand, if the material is readable, mobile, or if the cost of moving it is small in relation to its value, then the source of material is only a minor consideration. Proximity to the market may prevail. The third one is transportation facilities. If the business requires continued transportation, either of raw materials in or finished products out, or of both, the convenience of transportation facilities has a real bearing on the economical conduct of the business. When the material is heavy or bulky, its transportation is directly tied in with the optimum means of transportation. For instance, water transportation, if available, though slow, is the most economical way to ship bulky freight, such as oil, iron, or coal. Railway and motor truck are quite faster but higher in cost. Air transportation is the fastest, but due to its excessive cost, it is limited principally to lightweight items and perishable materials. Fourth, adequate public and private service. Manufacturing thrives in an area where the supply of power and water is plentiful as illustrated by the following. First, manufacture of fertilizers requires the location near an ample supply of power, as in the case of the Marcela fertilizer plant near the Maria Cristina hydroelectrical power plants in Mindanao, or of aluminum as in the case of the Reynold Aluminum Company located in Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, Quezon City. Second, the huge public power projects of the Tenes Valley and in several American Western states are indicative of the importance of adequate power to the successful industrial economy. The continuous scarcity of water in the Manila area can be traced to the heavy demands for water or the many industries around it. The third one is the need for large amounts of water, in addition to air conditioning to dissipate large amounts of heat generated by some present-day manufacturing processes. The fourth one is the locating of the principal plant for processing of the atomic bomb components of the Hartford, Washington, due to one of the best sources of pure cold water provided by the Columbia River, in addition to advantages of isolation and abundant volume for processed cooling. All of these indicate the need for abundant sources of power and water by many kinds of industries. The fifth one is climate. In certain industries, the nature of the climate, temperature, and humidity is a factor that assumes considerable importance. The manufacturer of shoes in Marikina, Rizal, for example, prefer a moist climate because he does not wish the leather that he uses to dry out rapidly. The manufacturer of airplanes seeks a climate that makes possible the year-round testing of his finished product. Recent developments in air conditioning have tended to lessen the importance of the climate factor. At one time, Mount Province was considered the most desirable section of the nation in which to locate textile industry. Now that it is possible to control the humidity of the air in a factor by mechanical means, Mount Province does not have these same advantages over certain other sections of the country. Determining the community. Once the general area or region has been determined, the selection of particular community is next. The best choice of community for the plant depends upon the considerable of the following factors. First, labor supply. Second, wage sales. Third, other enterprises in the community. And lastly, taxes and restriction laws. First, labor supply. Labor supply means the number of skilled and unskilled persons available for the kind of work to be done. This factor is often more important than all the other factors, especially when skilled labor is required. The watch industry is concentrated in Switzerland because children often follow in the footsteps of their parents, thus assuring ample sources of skilled labor. The shoe industry in Marikina, wood carvings in Paiti, doors and windows in Taytay, and wooden shoes in Bianan can be traced to labor supply. It is very essential that the required kind of labor should be available as needed and at reasonable rates of wage. There must be a ready supply, especially so at the time of business expansion. The second one is the wages, skills, or differentials wages. Skills or differentials also affect community location. However, these are not permanent and should not be considerable as definite or specific factors in locating a plant site in any community. It is the fact that wages constitute a big item in the company's expenses, and savings which could be saved through lower wage rates are of important consideration. The shipbuilding business of the United States is moving to Japan because of lower wages. American companies manufacture cars in foreign countries for similar reasons. Thus, we have Ford of Canada, Ford of England, Ford of Germany, and Ford of Australia. Third, other industries and the community oftentimes competing or complementary enterprise is in a community influence the decision and the selection of a plant site. Competing industries may drain the supply of certain types of labor skills, with the result that these industries become competitive with each other. With such conditions existing, that place is therefore not a good site for the business. Complementary industries, particularly where the finished product of one is the raw material for another, or respectively near their market and source of materials. Such an arrangement can work to their mutual advantage. As good examples of complementary industries, we have the mining industry and the machinery industry, whereby the former produces materials which are converted into pig iron, which in turn is manufactured into tools and machineries by the latter to be used by the first industry, mining industry. The fourth one is industrial attitude of the community. The attitude and comparatives of the community as a whole are of some importance. An industry or anti-company attitude sometimes cannot be overcome by the best public relations men. A community beset with labor union strikes, factors, and inter-union squabbles or politics does not generate a healthy atmosphere in which new plans are encouraged to settle. Those companies settle down in Makati or Mandaluyong and avoid other suburban towns or cities where they claim they do not get enough police protection. The fifth one is many French corporations organized in Monaco. Wage and work our legislation, tax laws, as well as local restriction in ordinance are typical or legislative factors that point to the state and community attitude towards industry. A ceramic factory did not build its plant in a town where the raw materials exist because it feared discriminatory or oppressive municipal regulation. All companies analyze the situation in many towns before they decide to open their big refineries. Choosing the plant site after determining the region and the community in it, the final step is of course the selection of the exact plant site in the community with the following factors to consider. First, the land, second, transportation, and the last one is miscellaneous conditions pertaining to the surroundings. First, the land. In the search for a site, the principal consideration is the land, whether it is ample in size, including room for expansion, as well as parking space for employee cars, whether the topography is right for the type of building desired, and whether the soil texture and drainage will provide proper foundations. Second, transportation. The other factor second in importance is the transportation, whether the site is readily accessible to rail, motor, water, or air transportation as may be required. Could not the employee, for instance, reach the place even with or without transportation of their town? The third factor has something to do with the surroundings of the site relative to the following question. First, will it be a good place for employees to work? Second, are there building and zoning restrictions that would not permit the type of building planned? Third, is the community fire protection adequate and available to the site? General consideration. Plant location today is generally a matter of cost tempered with circumstances. Theoretically, the most favorable location of a plant is that placed where, in consideration of business as a whole, the total cost of producing and delivering goods to customers is the lowest. Actually, however, the decision as to plant location is not always based on reason. For more times than management is willing to admit, corporation of financial ties of the enterprise of person whims of some top executive exercise the balance of power. Present trend in plant location. The tendency is to locate plants in the proximity of cities rather than in rural areas or directly in cities. The suburban areas offer practically all advantages, facilities, and services supplied by city areas and possess the added advantages of lower assessment, collection, and erection of the buildings. The size of the building depends upon its suitability to the nature, purposes, and the requirements of the business. Heavy manufacturing, for instance, calls for strong or sprawling buildings, while a retail store needs a situation that will allow adequate display of merchandise. Types of building. There are two basic types of buildings, namely the single-story building, and the second one is the multi-story building. Each offers certain definite advantages, the relative merits of which should be weighed with respect to the requirements of the enterprise involved. Advantages of single-story over the multi-story. First, greater ease of expansion through expansion to existing buildings is made possible. Second, there is less vibration where sensitive equipment and materials are employed together with heavy machinery. Third, the soil requirements of four foundations are less severe. Fourth, there is better natural light and ventilation, which is cheaper and hygienically preferable to air conditioning and artificial lighting. Fifth, there is more usable floor in essence because no space is required for elevators and stairways. Six, there is more efficient routing possible and made lower materials handling costs. And the last one is better supervision is made possible when the supervisor or executive does not have to go up down several floors. Advantages of multi-story over single-story buildings. First, more efficient use of land space, particularly where the space is limited or expensive, can be had. Where a business cannot spread out, it can always go up. Second, lower cost of construction per square foot or floor space is another advantage. The upper floors are often mere repetitions of lower floors. The third one is it is cheaper to heat because of less roof and other space through which heat can escape. It is also cheaper to cool where air conditioning is necessary. The fourth one is upper stories are more free from street noises, odors, and dirt. Sensitive equipment sometimes must be kept at certain distances from noise and dirt. And the last one, use of gravity flow of materials is permitted. The flow of production from one stage to another may be facilitated by the gravity flow of products and materials. Present trends in building construction. Allied with the present trend toward the location of plants in suburban areas is a trend towards the erection of single-story buildings. Flexibility of plant layouts and lower routine and materials handling costs, among other things, comprise strong endorsement to management to erect single-story structures. It does not imply, however, that a multi-story building is no longer in demand. On the contrary, for light manufacturing and where the gravity flow principle can be utilized, it still has a definite place in the list of industrial structures. Typical of other recognized trends in building designs and construction are those pertaining to the spacing of columns, the utilization of basements, and the construction of walls, roofs, and floors. Spacing of columns. The present thought on the spacing of columns is in the direction of wider and higher interiors. Undoubtedly, this trend has been influenced by the increased need in the recent years for flexibility to meet rapidly changing conditions in manufacturing. Used of basement and the sub-basement are being used more and more for the storage of raw materials, for dead storage, for service tunnels, and for employee servicing facilities. There are corridors are through which employees pass on their way and from the work areas above. Likewise, located in the corridors are the locker rooms, washrooms, and maybe an air-conditioned cafeteria. The use of corridor prevents confusion and interference that occur during the change of work shift. Wallings. One of the great difficulties with solid concrete walls is their inflexibility. In case of unavailable changes, for instance, great expense will be incurred as such changes are rather costly. Consequently, brick is frequently favored for walls in many countries. In the Philippines, hollow blocks of concrete are usually used. Roofings. The so-taught roofings have deserved more preference or popularity than the flat roofs, due to improvement in natural lighting offered by the former and sometimes of the lower initial and subsequent maintenance cost. Flooring. The present-day industrial buildings, especially those which have heavy machinery installation, require solid flooring. Concrete or tiles as most often used. New noise-absorbing and less jarring tiles which are highly durable, fairly inexpensive and easy to maintain, are now quite common. Present trends in building installation. The building installation and facilities mentioned in here are those to which industry is today devoting major attention. They compress the current trends in the management thinking as regard installation for better process control and manufacturing efficiency, as well as for employees to increase comfort and safety, which pay dividends in the form of greater productivity and lower accident compensation cost. The building installation and facilities which are given major attention are the following. Plant illumination. Good illumination in a plant pays for itself in greater productivity, efficiency, improved morale of employees, fewer accidents, and better housekeeping. Light and paint, when used together, comprise a team which can banish darkness, and one without the other will only half do the work. Lighting fixtures should be appropriate to the type of work that they are to illuminate. A display of merchandise to make it look attractive calls for special combination of fixtures which should not be used anywhere else in the establishment. In factories, the enlightening should be so planned as to give the workers adequate but not over-illumination the spot where they are working. The objective in factory lighting is to enable the worker to see what he is doing without hesitation or strain. Fluorescent lighting. There is a strong trend today in the direction of fluorescent lighting. It is this type of artificial lighting most widely most widely used by industry today, and which has replaced the incandescent light to a great extent. The principle of fluorescent lighting is the glow produced by ultraviolet rays in a tube coated inside the fluorescent powder. Fluorescent lighting offers the following advantages. First, it is practically it is practically gloreless, can be made to stimulate daylight, and greatly improves night working conditions. Second, its operation is cooler than that of the incandescent mercury lamps, particularly which air conditioning is installed. Third, it is more economical in operation, for example, 100 watts of fluorescent lighting being approximately equivalent in food candle illumination to 300 watts of incandescent lighting. Conditioning. The other phase of good plant illumination is the interior painting. The principal objective of industrial color conditioning is to achieve uniform brightness but sufficient contrast so that the job will appear more interesting to the employee's eyes than in the surrounding area. It was found that a can of paint could salvage many food candles of light. It is a well-known fact that white paint reflects from 74 to 100% light. Air conditioning. Air conditioning has found increasing application in industry in recent years through the development of more and more processes requiring constant temperature and thus free air. The expensive sources of electric power have also contributed to the trends. Plant layout. There are factors influencing a plant layout such as first, types of industry which may be a continuous industry and in which all the materials are received at one point from which successive operations turn these materials into finished product. And the second one, assembly industry, as in the case of car manufacturing. The second types of product which may either be heavy or light, large or small, liquid or solid. The third types of operation which may be with operation as leather tanning or textile dyeing. Second, heavy machinery as a large hydraulic presses. And the last one is operation, which involves forest as powder manufacturing or firecracker facilities. And the last one, types of workers, as in the case of employment of women, which requires engineering changes, the construction of necessary facilities. There are recognized ideals for plant layout in particular plants. These are, first, proper balancing of departments and operation, which especially refers to arrangement, processes, handling of materials, and the second one is additional transportation. The third one is provisions for of rust. The fourth one, storage and shipment of finished products. And the last one is provisions for future exchange. Plant layout and design. Plant layout and design deals with the physical arrangement of factories, plants, warehouses, office and laboratory areas, and commercial establishment. This arrangement and this will vary with different management viewpoints, operating policies, and the specific considerations surrounding the project. For efficiency in planning layouts and plant designs, it is important that the real objectives be clearly stated early in the planning. Plant layout fundamentals. It is probably impossible to achieve all the benefits of a good facility in any one plant. By its very nature, a plant facility involves a multitude of factors and considerations: products, materials, sales volume, people, buildings, utilities, and the like. All of them must be blended in a facility that will give the greatest benefits and have the fewest limitations. A manager should aim at certain fundamentals in his facility. These include, first, integration of all pertinent factors affecting the layout. Second, utilization, an effective utilization of machinery, people, and plant space. Third, expansion, easy to expand. Fourth, flexibility, easy to rearrange. Fifth, versatility, readily adaptable to changes in product design, sales requirements, and processes improvements. 6. Regulation, regular or straight division of areas, and relatively even sizes of areas. 8. Orderliness, a psychological workflow, and clean work areas with suitable equipment for scrap, dust, and waste. Ninth, convenience for all employees, both in day-to-day periodic operations, and lastly, satisfaction and safety for all employees. Layout planning. Basically, in layout planning involves first, relationships, closeness desired between various activities or functional areas. Second, space, in amount, kind, and shape for each activity or functional areas. Third, adjustment of the activity areas into a layout plan. Types of layouts. There are three so-called classical types of layout: fixed position, process or function, and product or function, and production or production line. Fixed position holds the shift material and brings men and machines to it. Layout is generally most economical when the product is physically largely and heavy. The quantity of each item is small. As a sample, process layout function is generally most. The process is relatively speed. The products are diversified or valuable. The quantities as each item are relatively few. The airline production is generally most economical when the quantity is large. The process is fairly simple. The product is relatively standardized and not too large. From the above, we note that the decision as to type of layout installation of equipment. Once the layout has been approved and reproduced, are usually distributed not only the key factory men involved, but also the plant engineers, plumbers, and electronics men to that so that the necessary construction work may be completed by the time the actual installation is started. Project studies. In the preparation of project studies, the one who prepares it should first find out the different factors which can affect the business. If it is to be a proposal for a new establishment or it's for expansion purpose, the project study should include the feasibility of the business in relation to supply and demand. I will end my report with a saying deciding what not to do is important as deciding what to do by Steve Jobs. That's all. Thank you and God bless you.